Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I as always am Grestar and this is another reaction to a death battle, Magneto versus Tetsuo. As always, the link to the original is in the description below. So we have Magneto from Marvel's X-Men versus Tetsuo from Akira, or Akira, I'm gonna probably say Akira. People in the comments told me that that's what he was from, and I didn't know if it was just like them telling me that's what he was from, or if they were telling me as though I should have known. And so that made me all paranoid. I was like, wait, was another character already from his series, and did I miss it? Because honestly, like, if I had to guess while I was watching, I would have assumed Tetsuo was a One Piece Man character. One Piece Man. One Punch Man! I woke up 20 minutes ago, I'm sorry! I'm not sure what my week is gonna be looking like, so I'm recording this now just to make sure that it's done and out of the way. But if I had to guess, is Akira the anime that, like, that one camera shot, you know what I mean? Like, where the camera is stationary, and then, like, someone, like, especially, like, a motorcycle or a vehicle, like, slides out into like, the background? Is that what that... Anyway, so I know nothing about Tetsuo, so I can't say anything about that here. So here's what I think I know about Magneto, just a few little things. Obviously, there are going to be huge things that I just don't know, even if I've seen him before in other research-heavy shows. I don't remember everything. But I know that Magneto is, you know, a mutant. I believe he's an Omega-class mutant, you know, like Storm was. And, you know, he deals with, like, electromagnetism. So, you know, like, lots of, like, Allomancy, Geomancy kinds of things. Allomancy actually might be limited to Mistborn series, so, but you know what I mean, like metal bending. That's what I was referring to. Leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. I believe he might own his own country? Genosha or something comes to mind. It was something that sounded like a Star Wars planet, but it was different. I know he has his helmet, which helps block out Professor Xavier's, like, telepathy and mind control and all of that. I know there was the Holocaust stuff, which was very unfortunate, and in the movies he had found that place between rage and serenity, but I have no idea if that was exclusive to the movies, so that was a cool moment, or if it was part of comics as well. But I do know he can lift massive things. Like, I'm sure the comics have, like, insane feats, but, like, even in the movies, he's lifting... Doesn't he lift, like, an entire bridge? Or does he not? Either way, it's a huge chunk, and it's impressive. So I'm assuming that Tetsuo is also something to do with, like, you know, metal or earth, raising, bending, controlling. It's that kind of kinesis, I assume. But we won't know until we watch this video, so with that little said, let's get to watching. So here we go for the death battle, Magneto versus Tetsuo. Take it away.
Magneto,
yes.
Marvel's mutant master of magnetism.
Right.
Tetsuo Shima, Akira's telekinetic terror of Neo-Tokyo.
So he's just
These two
telekinetic in
monsters of
general,
kinesis
actually.
have
Okay.
ignited revolution, not just in their worlds,
Which
but
can
also
largely
the very
include the
mediums they
Earth and
exist in.
stuff,
He's
but it's not
where's
limited
my
to it.
boomstick?
And it's our job to
So that's a
analyze
little
their
bit of
weapons,
versatility
armor,
for
and
him
skills
already.
to find out who would win a death battle.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
In the short duration of modern civilization, likely no conflict tested humanity more than the Second World War. In the primary
pretty
Marvel
bad.
616 universe, this fact is no different, especially to the Eisenhart family and their only son.
You
Yeah.
may know him as Magnus, Eric, or Max, but if you ask him, he'd say his true name is Magneto.
As a Jewish child in Nazi Germany,
Yeah, I didn't know the
Magneto's
Max or
early life
Magnus.
was,
I don't
well,
remember those. But
extremely
Eric, remember
traumatic.
that.
Even after eventually escaping certain death with his future wife, misfortune always followed wherever he went.
Thanks to his unexpected mutation.
Also,
called the
dislikes
X
discrimination,
the
Nazis,
mark
and
of a
wooden
superhuman.
guns.
After settling down in Russia with his new family, the KGB quickly found out about this quirk, so they burned his house down with his own daughter inside.
Oh,
Naturally, he snapped
pretty
and
rude.
killed them all. I don't blame him. I'd do that too. Too bad his wife didn't get it and ditched him though. But that's when Magneto made a choice. Since humans hurt him his entire life, he'd do the same to them in the name of mutants everywhere.
yeah,
At first,
Homo
Magneto turned to
superior.
the telepathic powerhouse Charles Xavier and his fledgling team of heroes. But his new friend wasn't thrilled with the idea of, subjugating the human race. So Magneto formed his own team of mutants, the Brotherhood.
With
Magneto
blackjack and
can
hookers.
telekinetically move, bend, and reshape any metal he's aware of. Bullets, vehicles, buildings, you name it. Even himself when he manipulates his personal magnetic field for flight and energy barriers.
Oh, okay.
Magnetic
I was
is
like,
far
bends
more
himself to
versatile than
what
it would
way?
appear at first glance.
Like, to what
the
extent?
blood in your body has iron in it.
Right.
The air has traces of lead and mercury. Whole mountains are lined with metallic ore. The Earth itself is surrounded by a literal
So can
magnetic
he just
field.
move
So
blood
many toys for Maggie to play
whenever?
with. He
Because
can
in the
detect
movies, he
magnetic
had to have
fields
someone
at such a
injected
huge
with
range.
blood.
He can even pinpoint
Well, I guess
Earth's
that was to get
magnetic
enough out
rays
to, like,
while
make a bullet.
stranded on a planet in another galaxy. And guess what? He was able to use those rays to pull himself back to Earth in a single day.
Okay, I
His
missed some
range
of
is
that,
even
but
more
that's
remarkable
fine.
than that. Did you know that in 1820, physicist Hans Christian Ørsted discovered that electric currents, like those of electrons and protons and atoms, produce their own magnetic fields? Magneto can fine-tune his control to affect these very subatomic particles.
Wow.
Dummy here will illustrate such a particle.
Thank
with
you,
positively
Dummy.
charged protons and negative electrons.
My life is as meaningless as an atom is small.
So what
Mine
you're
is too,
saying
don't
is
worry.
Magneto could, like, yank one of those out.
Correct, potentially changing an atom's entire chemical makeup. However,
Wow.
neutrons do not have a charge, and without the ability to adjust those to accommodate the change in atomic mass, the atom would become unstable and
Finally!
The sweet embrace of death.
do that.
Yeah.
Magneto's violent protest against humankind clashed with Xavier's peaceful reconciliation, not unlike the ideologies taught by Malcolm X and Dr. King, by
Right.
whom Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were inspired. Magneto would spend most of his career pushing Xavier away to prove his philosophies superior, which meant doing battle with Xavier's school of thought, quite literally.
Aunt Baldy's mind powers are no joke, but thanks to Magneto's psionic repelling helmet, Professor X couldn't touch him.
Pretty
Magneto
handy,
survived
that.
Cyclops' earth-splitting lasers, absorbed the power of the sun to battle Iron Man,
Oh.
ripped the adamantium skeleton out of Wolverine's body, and even taken on Hercules himself. You know, the Greek legend, Zero to Hero? The guy
Right,
who
but-
held up the skies of Olympus for Atlas? That Hercules.
What has he actually
Seems
been capable of
sensible. Magneto
doing?
once used
What
the
does that
Earth's magnetic
sky
field to
feat
overwhelm
mean?
the Phoenix Force, which can effortlessly destroy planets, let alone far more.
Hell, if he really wanted to, Magneto could totally just fling the Earth off its axis.
It's entirely possible he may have eventually resorted to just that. Over time, it became clear Magneto's war was doing far more harm than good for his fellow mutants, however well-intentioned he may have been at first.
Luckily, he later realized he was going a bit overboard and began reevaluating his perspective.
Okay.
Good for you, Mags. It's really tough to recognize when you're the baddie.
It took time and patience not just from Magneto, but also from his peers. Yet eventually, his path was completely changed. He even became a leader for Xavier's X-Men.
But don't let his new goody two-shoes ways fool you.
I didn't know he was
Whenever
ever
there's a
leader of
threat to
X-Men.
mutants, you can bet
Wow.
Magneto will be there to annihilate it. Forever. By any means necessary.
Okay, so we got some good things from that.
Over 30
try to
years
keep
ago,
him in
a new
mind
type
and
of
then
bomb
see
was
what
set
this
off
says.
over Tokyo, and 9 hours later began the Third World War.
Oh,
Welcome
no.
to 2030, or 2019 if you're watching the anime. The buildings are taller, the motorcycles are cooler, and the future is brighter. Oh, wait, not really. If you find yourself in the Capsule Gang, you'll meet Shotaro Kaneda, who's
Capsule
like your
Gang, eh?
textbook anime Chad. Gets the ladies, beats the baddies, and cops the sweetest rigs. Man, I need to get one of those.
That was the
And
camera
there's the
thing I was
little
talking
brother of the
about.
group, Kaneda's best friend, Tetsuo Shima. He's, well,
The exact opposite.
Oh.
A total wimp. As a kid, Tetsuo in his college thesis forehead got bullied for being the new kid at the orphanage. That's until Big Bro Kaneda came to the rescue.
eventually the two went to vocational school together and formed the Capsules.
Good for
But
them.
Tetsuo was never satisfied
You
with
know,
Kaneda being the leader
in
of
a
the pack. Tetsuo
kinda
desired more than
post-apocalyptic sort of world.
anything to be top
I
dog.
guess it's not, it's just
Oh, I can just
cyberpunk.
see
It's
that
not
monkey's
post-apocalyptic.
paw curling in my
Dystopian,
mind.
that's what I
Or
was
that
thinking of.
kid walking down the street. Shit, Tetsuo, watch out!
No, Tetsuo! Is the kid okay?
Definitely should have killed him. But since it didn't, Tetsuo earned himself a ticket to military confinement. Turns out they had an under-the-table program for developing child superweapons.
In the same program that backfired and jump-started the war, Tetsuo became Japan's Esper number 41.
He may not have been a natural with bikes, baddies, or babes, but this telekinesis stuff hit different. He walked out of that hospital ward effortlessly flying, reading minds, and blending people into strawberry jelly. Tetsuo got what he wanted. Power, along with the hunger for more of it.
A hunger that used to only be satiated with drugs. And not just any gateway drug. Pills so potent that a single gram of the stuff could kill you.
So, pretty bad. Kinda reminds me of college days, huh, Snow Wizard?
Tetsuo's main ability is his constantly increasing psionic energy, growing more and more powerful over time. This is due to Tetsuo's link to, quote, the memories of the universe, end quote.
Interesting.
Either way, Tetsuo leveled up from lame
He got a
gangster to
cane.
certified badass. This guy is a walking natural disaster. His telekinesis can shake the planet, easily cause earthquakes over a dozen miles below the surface. He can summon psychic barriers for defense and crush foes with friggin' gravity wells. He can dart around as a literal bolt of lightning or even teleport in an instant.
Tetsuo's telekinesis can be so precise he can target and obliterate specific parts of the body. He can heal severe wounds quickly, but even after losing a whole limb, he can craft a new one using whatever nearby materials he wants.
Wow,
With these powers, Top Dog Kaneda didn't matter anymore. Who needed his approval? Tetsuo tasted that good shit and he was hooked. And when he found out another Esper named Akira could deal him even more power, he rampaged through Tokyo to find him.
And this is where versions of the story differ.
Spoilers ahoy!
You may be familiar with the 1988 animation, where
I'm not.
Akira had been dissected for research. However, in the original manga, Akira is not only alive, but even more powerful.
Once that little runt nuked Tokyo, Tetsuo would erect the Great Tokyo Empire with Akira and himself as its leaders. But he ended up just abusing the position for endless sex and inflating his ego.
With Kaneda's rebellion at his front door, Tetsuo took a turn for the worse. He had to fight.
Tetsuo's defeated other powerful Espers, dodged light-speed lasers, and jumped to the moon faster than anyone could blink, and then punched a big old hole in it. And if you ask, Boomstick, wouldn't that mess up gravity on Earth? You would be right, because it totally did. Screwed the planet, I guess.
Yeah.
Stupid moon.
Which brings us to Tetsuo's folly. His abuse of his powers spiraled until he lost control. Unfortunately for Kaneda's rebellion, this did not make Tetsuo an easier enemy to confront. Exactly opposite, in fact, as Tetsuo painfully mutated into an unstoppable behemoth.
Yep. That's not totally disturbing at all.
I'm happy to say the manga's version is even more disturbing.
Oh, great.
I mean, I know babies can be monsters, but that's a whole nother level.
It is pain incarnate. I can relate. Another Esper described Tetsuo's struggle as ego death, which has multiple definitions, but in this case is likely symbolic of the version attributed to drug use.
Yeah, it's described as a shedding of one's own identity, like how LSD can emulate a wild out-of-body experience, and you come back with a new perspective. Though this is maybe a little more extreme.
Maybe.
In fact, you could say Tetsuo was shedding his human body to play with the powers of a god.
I wish I could shed out of my body. But in this case, Tetsuo going full out of body meant becoming a mound of raw, ever-expanding energy.
Which almost nuked Tokyo all over again. And those explosions are not normal. I would know.
Top scientists in both the
What do you mean
manga
you would
and
know?
animated versions describe these explosions as births of a new universe.
Given its properties of nuclear fusion and proton collapse, Tetsuo's mutated form was likely creating a big bang.
You know, the thing that started our whole universe?
Right.
In the manga, it instead ended the Espers and their abilities once and for all. A testament that humankind is unsuited to wield the powers of the divine.
Though the anime's even more trippy. Thanks to Akira and his buddies, Tetsuo got so high on ego death, he ascended time-space to become god of a new universe. Kinda worth it, right?
And yet, Kaneda kept his empire up in his honor, now as the Great Akira Empire. Ironically, in death, Tetsuo finally received the attention he so desperately craved.
This is interesting.
All right, the combatants are set. We've run the data through all possibilities.
It's time for a death battle! And pause. I am torn right now because I think there are things that are pretty heavily in Magneto's favor, and I think there are things that are pretty heavily in Tetsuo's favor, and I am not sure how to juggle those two things. Like, let's get this out of the way. I think that, like, Tetsuo's most powerful thing is the whole, like, creation of a new universe, like the Big Bang thing they mentioned right at the end there. And I don't think that Tetsuo can necessarily just, like, pull that out, but it's that kind of thing where it's like, even if he isn't doing it consciously, if he, like, his body, his power is capable of that kind of output, that's a big deal. Because it's a universe. And, like, I don't know if Magneto ever did any universe-shattering things or universe-creating things like that. Like, planet-busting, absolutely. Galaxy-busting, maybe? I don't know. But, like, universe? That's a big leap. So I'm torn there. Like, up until that point, most of it, I think, was in Magneto's favor, because it's like, they're like, Tetsuo can cause the entire Earth to shake. Yeah, Magneto could tilt the entire Earth, like, its axis, disrupt all of that. So that's, you know, that's higher than Tetsuo's, I would say, because, like, Magneto could surely cause the Earth to quake. You know, Magneto, he did fight back, like, the Phoenix Force, which at the time, if I understood correctly, like, it was weaker than it usually was, or Jean Grey was weaker than she usually was when that happened, and so it's at the very least, like, planetary level, where the Phoenix Force usually is, like, much bigger, but that feat at least was, like, planetary level. Fighting, like, absorbing the sun to fight Iron Man, that's kind of a tricky thing to evaluate, because, one, I don't know how he absorbed the sun or the power of the sun or whatever, and I don't know, like, how much that boosted his abilities, but I also don't know at what level Iron Man was fighting, because for Iron Man, it really depends on his suit, you know? Are we talking, like, his best suit, or are we talking, like, his normal suit? Not to say that Iron Man is weak in general or period, but it matters what suit he's wearing. And what else was I going to say? So, like, it's cool that Magneto can control things anywhere, because he has, like, you know, if it's just a matter of electromagnetism and at the subatomic level, you know, he can rearrange things. Like, I guess this, that rearrangement actually might prove to be incredibly useful, because he might need that to just, like, disrupt Tetsuo's whole gig. Tetsuo has regeneration over Magneto. Shoot, that rearrangement, that molecular rearrangement thing is actually really... So, I think Magneto is also faster. We have Tetsuo dodging beams of light, so that means that he would be approaching light speed, if not light speed himself. Because, yeah, just dodging a beam of light doesn't actually mean necessarily that you can move at light speeds. However, we do have Magneto. I was talking over this feat at the beginning of it, but what I think it was, I tried really hard to, like, focus and pay attention. Might be redundant. But, he was in a different galaxy, and he sensed Earth's magnetism and used it to pull himself, like, flying through space, and reached Earth in a day of travel. And so that would be far faster. If we're assuming that Magneto can always do that, whether by using, like, Earth's magnetic pole, or by, you know, like, harnessing a different, you know, heavenly body's magnetic pole, or something like that, you know, in a different direction, and then he could just kind of will himself to fly that quickly, then he is surely faster. The telekinesis on Tetsuo's part is really interesting, because he can, like, select a specific spot to, like, destroy, right? And I don't know if Magneto can do anything about that. I don't know if, like, the psionic helmet would keep... I think the telepathy part, like, reading Magneto's mind, I don't think Tetsuo could do that because of Magneto's helmet, but I don't know about just the telekinetic snapping. And so, like, if he were to do that in Magneto's brain, or in Magneto's heart or something... But here's the thing! Magneto's molecular rearrangement could also do that! And I don't know if Magneto and his control... Like, he has some control over his own body. I don't know if that extends to that kind of situation, where he could block, like, that kind of an attack, You know, if he has such an awareness that he could like sense a disturbance in his body basically and like redirect it, or if he can repair it. I don't know. Holy cow, that molecular rearrangement thing seems to go so far to me, and I have no idea if that is at all in the right path. But oh, let's say that it is though. Then that would like virtually cancel out his like Tetsuo's advantage with the telekinesis like snapping bit, like the individual like the focused attack. And he's faster. He doesn't have regeneration, but could he stunt Tetsuo's regeneration by using that sort of thing? You know? And then with the whole Big Bang thing too, since it's all a matter of like molecules and like since the energy itself, wouldn't that be generating electricity? You know? When at the subatomic level, like everything does? I mean, holy crap! Like when I started talking about this analysis or this prediction, when I started this prediction section, I thought that Tetsuo was going to win. I was leaning toward him because he seems to have like just like a few incredibly powerful things. But Magneto might actually be able to cancel those out if I'm not misunderstanding things. I think Magneto's going to win. Okay, I think I have to go with that. I think Magneto overall, he has more experience, he has more control, because the whole thing about Tetsuo's was like, I mean, I don't know how long he had those powers, but he lost control in the end. Whereas Magneto has like such fine control. Tetsuo has fine control as far as like, again, the telekinetic snapping, but clearly like his body could not handle it all. Magneto is faster. I think that his abilities overall are stronger. Where I say overall is like I question the Big Bang thing, but overall. And I don't know if Magneto could contain the Big Bang thing. Because I don't know if it's actually like universe level, because it's the beginning of a universe. You know, in the same way where I wouldn't say that a baby is human level, because it's a baby. It's a baby. Yeah, I could punch a baby. Not that I would, but I could do it. Alright, Magneto is going to win this one, and I'm really looking forward now to the conclusion to see how they wrap all of this up, because maybe it's not even a close match, but this seems like one of the closest matches that I've like had to work through in a long time. So yeah, Magneto's going to win and play.
Even in Japan, they fail to recognize our superiority.
Just going through that like worked me up.
Country, Grandpa! You're an Turf now!
Alright, you got this, Magneto, please.
Impudent child!
The hell are you calling child? I make the rules around here.
He's a big boy. A single car blocked all that. Good for it.
You're wasting my time.
And I get his magic hands. Okay, so there's the arm off. He's grown that back from whatever. We got some cool music going too. Ow!
Your history, scumbag!
Oh, that was right where you telekinetically snapped him too. That was cool looking. That's not a good sign. Magneto? Magneto! Gosh, no.
I believe I've had enough tantrums to last a lifetime.
Okay, we're getting to this part. Yep. Angry baby. In pain baby. I couldn't punch that baby, for the record.
Hurts. Help me.
Here's the Big Bang!
Poor child.
Did he just absorb it? Not absorb, but like contain. How did he come out of the mutant baby?
Thank you.
So he wasn't quite dead after the bullet to the brain.
You are welcome.
Oh. Okay, I didn't even know if they're going to use molecular rearrangement, which was a huge thing in my prediction.
I'm never doing that again.
Tetsuo's esoteric telekinesis and other bizarre abilities certainly gave Magneto pause, but the Master of Magnetism had greater control over his foe.
The numbers don't lie. Tetsuo cratering the moon was insane, but Magneto punched Iron Man with the force of the sun. And while Tetsuo jumped all the way to the moon, Magneto could move across galaxies.
Right.
Against Tetsuo in his human form,
None of this
Magneto
is what I'm
obviously
questioning
held a
yet.
sizable advantage in power and speed.
But stats aren't all that matters. With his precise telekinesis, Tetsuo could just target Magneto's organs. GG, right?
Yes, but Magneto had similar skills. There are very
Right.
few substances on Earth that lack any metallic or magnetic component, and Magneto is very creative with his powers.
Which he could use to predict Tetsuo's teleportation and even shut down his telekinesis. And his scraps with Xavier prove he could handle Tetsuo's messing with his head. The biggest challenge for Magneto was when Tetsuo's gross mutated power came into play.
Okay, that makes sense to
Especially
me.
given how the detonations from this
yes.
form were compared to that of a Big Bang.
Right.
Although the authenticity of that observation is questionable. In truth, the Big Bang was a sudden expansion of matter on a universal scale, whereas Tetsuo's explosions are more akin to nuclear blasts, clearly intentional given the post-war symbolism of the Akira story.
The whole creating an alternate universe bit wasn't even part of the original material, so we can't exactly call it canon.
But let's
But-
just say the comparison wasn't superfluous.
Okay, thank you.
Let's say Tetsuo did in fact cause a Big Bang capable
I appreciate
of creating
that.
or destroying
I would
an
have complained
entire
about it
universe,
otherwise.
alternate or otherwise.
Turns out, Magneto had the tools to stop that too. Helmet Head could overpower Hercules, who was strong enough to hold up the skies of Olympus, which is literally heaven and an alternate
I
universe.
did forget
This
about
doesn't
that.
necessarily mean Magneto could
Because at
easily
the time,
destroy a
you
universe
heard me,
with
I wasn't
his
sure
fingers,
how
but it
to
does
weigh it.
prove he can match a similar level of power. And context is everything. Tetsuo's Big Bang eruption specifically exhibited proton collapse, meaning its atomic structure was primarily an unstable mess of neutrons and electrons.
Okay.
And Magneto has detected and commanded unstable electrons before. This means Magneto had every means available to take control over this Big Bang.
Okay.
Damn, and I thought he could just move some metal around. It's like the question posed
basically
by some
all I
of the
knew,
greatest
too.
prophets of our time. Fucking magnets. How do they even work?
Magneto's astonishing power and intelligent control.
Was he
over
just
all
quoting
things
Insane Clown
magnetism
Posse?
triumphed in the end.
Tetsuo
I don't wanna talk to a
punched his luck,
scientist.
but didn't have the metal to pull off the win.
All
The
right.
winner is Magneto.
Claps for Magneto. Cool.
Thank you for watching this episode.
You're welcome.
If you'd like to directly support the whole Death Battle team,
This episode was
click
crazy.
that join button and consider becoming a member. We'd really appreciate it. Hope
All
you
right.
like the next one.
Next time on Death Battle, we have... Is that actually Hercules? Oh, Hercules and Sun Wukong! Yeah! Yeah! Oh, that one will be cool. Yes, I'm aware that's who Goku's based on. Loosely, albeit, but still. Okay, no, that one I think will be really cool. I'll say it now in case I forget by the end. I think the actual next one we'll watch, which actually might be like 2 days from when this video comes out, I think that's when Gogeta versus Vegito is coming out. And so I'm going to do my best to get that up like on Monday. But yeah. All right, so let's talk about this death battle. So I was right, yay me, but I don't know if I was right for enough correct reasons. Because again, like, I had to rely very heavily on like the molecular rearrangement. And that could have been like too specific a way of thinking about it where, cause like it was just a matter of how fine control Magneto had. I wasn't necessarily thinking about like, you take away like one bit and then it'll result in an, unstable element and it will explode. But just in that, he had such fine control that he could manipulate things to the molecular level or the subatomic level, And yeah, so that's what I was mostly riding on. I didn't know where he would get like his big power or his big durability. I brought up like the Phoenix Force thing, I brought up the Iron Man thing, but yeah, I completely forgot during my prediction about the Hercules thing, and I really do think it is because at the time I didn't know how to scale it, how to weigh it in my mind, and so it just ended up, in the back of my mind instead. Didn't pop back up. And I want to say too, like, I did misunderstand the Big Bang attack. I misunderstood it for a very good reason, because not like the Vegeta's Big Bang, by the way, but like because they were saying that it was like a Big Bang, and while I am really glad they cleared it up in the conclusion, like they said, it's actually not, but let's say that it was, and still scale that attack to that kind of an event. I still don't like that they did it that way, just because that heavily affected my prediction, as far as, like, I really thought that, that was, like, Tetsuo's big thing. And while it still might have been his big thing, it wasn't as big as Big Bang, or at the very least, it functioned differently, and therefore could be controlled differently. Like, if I knew that it was more akin to, like, those unstable molecular bleh, whatever, then yeah, I would have been more confident in saying that Magneto could control it, or, like, contain, that kind of thing. Whereas I kind of just had to guess that maybe it could work that way. But, I did at least get Magneto's speed correct, the comparison, as far as, he was able to, like, fly across galaxies, or at least a galaxy in a day, and that was a big thing. And a lot of the fact of, like, the counters, where it's like, yeah, Tetsuo can telekinetically, I keep calling it telekinetically snap, you know what I'm referring, like, snap something internal. But then, Magneto could, like, counter a lot of that out, or cancel a lot of that out, counter it, one of those phrases. Yeah, so I'm not confident to what extent I want to give myself this victory. I am proud of myself for having turned around my thinking, as far as, entering that with thinking Tetsuo was going to win, and then having to go through that whole, like, inner wrestle. But I did not get exactly how Magneto won. Mostly because of the Hercules thing. I really think, like, if I'd gotten that, I think that I would be, like, perfectly content with how I did. But because I missed, like, I forgot such a key thing, at least it seemed key in the conclusion, that's where I'm hesitant. Because that was huge. That was huge. Done with the talking about me and my prediction. Let's talk about the actual, like, animation itself. So, I mean, for the analyses, I liked it. Funny moments, like, I liked Dummy's contributions. Poor Dummy, I feel you. I do still have, like, that, I don't love the Big Bang part. Now, I know that they were just pulling that out of their butts, it was because the people in, like, the manga were specifically relating it to a Big Bang, and so I can't entirely put that on Death Battle. They're just, relating, what the manga itself, the original source, was saying, so, like, yeah. But it was still threw me off, so I have to be upset at something. But it's fine, But yeah, so the analyses, I enjoyed. The fight itself, I thought was really cool. I really liked this fight. I don't I don't know how much of a story there actually was. I don't remember much aside from, like, Magneto showed up and then Akira was like, yeah, you came to the wrong neighborhood, pal, that kind of thing. And they just started fighting. I don't remember if there was more to it. So at the very least, if they did have a bigger story, it didn't stick with me. But as far as just, like, the fight itself goes, you know, the choreography, the gradual build-up, and, like, the demonstration of their abilities and their experience, I really liked that. And while I didn't, like, pay attention to the music the entire time, there was that one moment where it particularly stood out to me, maybe because there was a lull in the combat, like the actual action, but I did hear the music, and I thought that it, you know, fit really well, and I thought aesthetically, you know, it was pleasing to me, so it was cool. I liked when, you know, Tetsuo went all, like, big tumor baby on us, you know, that... At that point, Magneto's helmet was gone, and then we got to hear Tetsuo's, like, plea for help. And so at that point, I mean, here's where I'm, like, a little bit confused, but I can reason it out pretty well. But, like, so there was the baby thing, right? And then Magneto, like, captured the Big Bang and then shot it back at him and, like, tore the big baby in half. And then normal Tetsuo leapt out of it. Is that in the manga or the anime? Can he do that? I assumed that the big tumor baby was him. So how is, like, that still there, but then he just, like, comes out of it himself? I don't understand that part. And I also, part of the confusion too was, like, why would he attack Magneto when he was just asking Magneto for help, and then Magneto did help him? But I assume it was because at that point Tetsuo figured that he himself was too lost and wanted it to end. And so he rushed at Magneto, not really to, like, finish Magneto off, but to have Magneto, like, force Magneto's hand and have Magneto finish him. That would be my assumption. But I still don't get how he came out of Tumor Baby. so yeah. And then, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about this death battle. Next time, again, Hercules versus Sun Wukong. That's going to be really interesting. I don't know. I mean, first, I don't know a lot about either of their mythology. I don't know, especially about Hercules's. I know a little bit more about Sun Wukong, in part because of, like, having watched the original Dragon Ball, but again, I don't assume that follows it closely at all. I think it's really just like, yeah, take some names, take some, like, species, you know, like the pig and the monkey, you know, right? And then just kind of take a bunch of liberties and run with it. But I also, there was another, what game, what's it called? Gunfire Reborn. There's a game called Gunfire Reborn, where you play as, like, different characters that are based largely on sort of, I think, like, Chinese, you know, creatures or characters, that kind of thing. And maybe not exclusively Chinese, but yeah. And one of them, I believe, is based upon Sun Wukong, and he has some interesting abilities as far as, like he throws his hair at the enemy, I'm pretty sure, just, like, bits of hair, and, like, when they hit, they, like, clones of himself come out and start attacking. And it's super weird. But there's, like, a lot of weird magical versatility involved with Sun Wukong. I don't know the extent, though, of, like, the power in those, whereas Hercules is, like, all about power as far as I'm aware. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And then, of course, Gogeta versus Vegito, the two different fusions of, you know, Goku and Vegeta, one with the fusion dance, one with the Batari earrings. And from what I've heard in the comments, you know, after when the reveal first came out, you know, people obviously talked about it in the comments. I had thought that Gogeta was the later fusion that came about because people were saying that he was stronger from what I had heard. But in the comment section, people were actually telling me that Vegito is actually the stronger fusion, and that it's more of, like, a fan favorite thing where Gogeta, he, like, won, or at the very least tied in his duels, whereas Vegito was just kind of, like, inserted at, like, a different time where fights went differently, you know? But that's not to say that Vegito is weaker just because he didn't win. So it'll be an interesting thing. Like, I'm trying to, you know, keep that stuff in mind as we're gonna go into that death battle, but also trying to be open-minded enough, of course, that I don't, like, railroad my way of thinking. And we'll see what we learn when that video comes. But as for Magneto versus Tetsuo, let me know what you thought about this death battle in the comments below. Whether you liked it, whether you disliked it, what you thought about this or that, etc., so on and so forth. And next time we will be watching Gogeta versus Gogeta versus Vegito, rather. I believe people said that was coming out the 20th. So I think that is next. So hope you're looking forward to that. But yes, with that, we're calling it here. So have a good one, everybody.